I was in the car, shaking, with a crumpled ticket in my hand. The radio announcing the numbers. The dry sound of the old AC rattling in my ear. My phone dropped into my lap, cracked screen and all. I whispered, "Oh my God, it's real. I manifested this." If you love stories that show how it's possible to manifest your dreams, subscribe now, because I'm going to tell you what I did to make this happen to me. Something simple you can do too. It all started on an ordinary Tuesday in Atlanta. 6 in the morning, the diner near I-75 already smelled like burnt coffee and old bacon. I tied my apron with hands still trembling from exhaustion. I'd slept 3 hours after finishing deliveries at 2 in the morning. I counted last night's tips. $23. My little miracles. Barely enough for gas. My son, Jake, was 6. That morning, before I left, he handed me a folded piece of paper. "For good luck, Mom." It was his drawing, crooked little stars, a made-up constellation, and underneath, a sequence of numbers written in colored pencil: 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, 9. I smiled, kissed his forehead, and tucked it in my wallet without thinking much about it. Just another silly kid treasure. That night, scrolling through my feed, I stopped at a video about manifesting money and the law of attraction. I rolled my eyes, but something inside me whispered, "What if?" That night, I made a silent promise, and it cost me more than I ever imagined. 3 days later, I was sitting in a bank in Midtown, trying to renegotiate my credit card. The room had that overly cold AC, the smell of fresh paper and disinfectant. The pen kept slipping in my sweaty hand while the rep, a man about 40 with a navy blue tie, stared at his computer screen with a blank expression. "Ms. Carter, with this history, I can't approve an extension." My throat closed. "But I'm working 2 shifts. I just need 30 more days." "I understand, but the system doesn't allow it." System. Like it was some faceless, heartless entity. I left with shaky legs. In my building's elevator, 2 neighbors got in and went silent. I knew they'd seen the orange notice stuck to my door. Final notice. Eviction pending. I pretended to check my phone, but the screen was black. At the diner, things got worse. The manager, Steve, a short, bald guy, always with his shirt stained with sauce, called me out in front of everyone during lunch rush. "Emily, if you can't keep up, there's a line of people who want this job." I felt my face burn. The other waitresses looked away. A customer at table 6 threw 2 quarters on top of the check and walked out without looking at me. 50 cents. My body started reacting in ways I couldn't control anymore. Shoulders always tense, locked up. Stomach twisted all the time. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning with my heart racing, running numbers in my head. 1,847 in back rent, $30,200 on the card, $890 on the car. And Jake needed new sneakers. His had the sole coming off. One night, after picking him up from my mom's house, I pulled into an empty parking lot near Piedmont Park. Jake was asleep in the back seat, hugging his backpack. I pressed my forehead against the steering wheel and cried without making a sound, because I didn't want to wake him. And it was there, in the silence of that old car, that I noticed the pattern. The voices in my head, playing on loop. Money is hard. People like me don't win. This isn't for me. Whose voices were these? My mother's? My grandmother's? How many generations carrying this? On the radio, some commercial was playing, and at the end I heard, "Pay attention to 1111. It's the universe speaking." I ignored it, turned off the radio. But that night, driving back home with the tank on reserve and Jake snoring softly, I said out loud, for the first time, with a cracked voice, "I'm ready to break this cycle." I just had no idea what the price would be. The following Saturday, I was organizing my dresser drawer, a pathetic attempt to feel some control. when I found an old notebook at the bottom, underneath old receipts and faded photos. A black notebook, hardcover, smelling like paper that had been stored for years. It had about 20 pages written back in 2019, dreams I never finished. I sat on the bed, and a crazy idea took over. 21 days, just an experiment. I wasn't going to tell anyone, wasn't going to post about it, wasn't going to make it dramatic, just test it. I created a system, scripting, writing as if it had already happened. Not, I want money, but I looked at the app and saw the result. My heart was calm. I knew it was real. Visualization, specific scene. Me in the car, checking the numbers, feeling the steering wheel under my hands. Not just the money, but how I would feel. Light, breathing deeply, secure. Short affirmations, identity shift. I am the kind of person who receives, not begging, not pleading with the universe, declaring. Belief clearing, brutal journaling. Whose voice is this saying I don't deserve it? I wrote 3 pages straight, non-stop, letting out all the rage, all the inherited shame. I'd read about quantum reality, not as actual physics, but as a metaphor. Focus changes observation. Observation changes possibility. It wasn't magic. It was posture. I made a rule for myself. Don't ask out of desperation. Ask with certainty. Anticipated gratitude, as if I'd already received it and was just waiting for the right timing. On the 3rd day, I was making coffee before my shift when I got a text from an unknown number. Hi, Emily. This is Marcus from the diner last week. You were really kind to my daughter. I manage a catering company. Would you be interested in weekend gigs? 25 hour. Too small to be a miracle, too big to be coincidence. I took the catering job. It wasn't much, but it was something. And more importantly, for the first time in months, I felt like I'd made a choice, not just reacted to desperation. I started waking up 30 minutes earlier to walk in Piedmont Park. Not out of Spartan discipline, but because I needed to raise my vibration. And this wasn't empty spiritual talk. It was concrete. Gratitude for real things. The sun on my face. Hot coffee. Jake laughing at some silly thing on the way to school. Small things, but I stopped treating them as insignificant. And then the synchronicities started. In the grocery store line, the woman in front of me talking on the phone. Girl, did you see the Mega Millions jackpot hit $340 million? At the diner, a customer left a newspaper open on the table, headline about someone from Columbus, Georgia, who'd won the lottery. License plates with repeated numbers, 1111, 777, 444. I was still scared. This is crazy. You're going to get disappointed. It's self-delusion. But I continued. I wrote in the notebook about the bridge of events, a concept I'd seen in a manifestation video. It wasn't waiting for the universe to fall from the sky. It was 1 aligned action per day. I organized my bills in a spreadsheet, cut the streaming subscription I barely used, sent my resume to 3 new places, and bought a lottery ticket. But not with anxiety, not with desperation, like someone buying proof of my new self. At the diner, Shanice, a younger waitress, always with colorful nails and big earrings, laughed when she saw me scribbling in the notebook during break. Girl, you still on this manifesting money thing? I smiled without irritation. I don't need you to believe, Shanice. She rolled her eyes, but in an affectionate way. Every night, before sleeping, I did the exercise. Visualize not the number in the bank account, but how I would feel. Secure. Breathing slowly. Looking at Jake sleeping, and knowing I could give him more than survival. On day 14 of the experiment, Friday, I was coming back from catering, tired but not broken, when I stopped at a Quick Trip just to grab a bottle of water. Harsh white light inside, smell of fuel mixed with old coffee. The clerk, a skinny guy in an NBA cap, was staring at his phone, bored. I grabbed the water, went to the counter, and at the last second, I looked at the lottery machine. 1 Mega Millions, please. I left with something I didn't even know I was looking for. The drawing was on Tuesday night. Day 21 of my experiment. I was driving home after my shift, Jake already asleep at my mom's. Traffic on I-85 was stopped. Accident up ahead, red and blue lights flashing. I turned on the radio just to have some sound. And then I heard, "And now tonight's Mega Millions winning numbers." My stomach flipped. I'd forgotten. Completely forgotten. I rummaged through my purse on the passenger seat, hands shaking. Where had I put it? I found it at the bottom, crumpled, along with old receipts and a gum wrapper. 7? My heart beat harder. 14? No, wait, 23. I looked at the ticket. The numbers started dancing in front of me. 31. 42. I stopped breathing. And the mega ball. 9. The world narrowed. The sound of traffic became distant, muffled, like I'd dived underwater. The old car's AC made a dry, repetitive noise. My heart was pounding in my ear, an offbeat drum. I checked once, twice, 3 times. 42 mega ball, 9. All of them, all the numbers. My phone slipped from my lap and fell on the floor, the already cracked screen hitting the dirty mat. I whispered, voice broken, almost soundless. "Oh my God, it's real. I manifested this." But it wasn't the shock of winning that surprised me most at that moment. It was something else. A memory. I dropped the ticket in my lap, and with my hands shaking so much I could barely hold the steering wheel, I grabbed my purse again. I searched my wallet, opened the small compartment where I kept important things, and pulled out the folded paper. Jake's drawing, the crooked little stars, the made-up constellation, and underneath, written in blue-colored pencil, the numbers. 7, 14, 23, 31, 42, 9. My vision blurred. I couldn't process it. Because that paper was 3 weeks old. Jake had given it to me before I started the experiment, before I wrote anything in the notebook. And I'd used those numbers, not out of strategy, not out of logic, but because that day at Quick Trip, when I opened my wallet to pay for the water, I saw the folded paper and my chest tightened. I chose those numbers out of love, out of emotional meaning, not out of fear, not out of desperation, out of vibration. Behind me, a horn honked. Traffic had started moving again, but I couldn't get the car to move. I thought the shock was winning, but what destroyed me was remembering a sentence I'd written in my notebook, and that I hadn't told anyone about. I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember breathing. I climbed the building stairs, opened the apartment door, threw my purse on the couch, and went straight to the bedroom. The notebook was on the nightstand, where I'd left it that morning. I opened to day 7, and read what I'd written, in my own handwriting, 2 weeks earlier. I'm going to hear the numbers on the radio. The ticket will be crumpled in my hand. I'm going to look at Jake's paper, the one with the little stars, and I'll understand that everything connected in a way I never imagined. My heart will be calm, because I'll know it was real. I sat on the edge of the bed. The silence in the apartment was deafening. No music, no traffic, just the faint hum of the old fridge in the kitchen. I hadn't forced anything. I hadn't begged the universe to save me. I'd changed my identity. I'd followed the signs without desperation, and somehow, impossibly, everything had aligned. The next morning, after confirming the ticket 3 times with the state lottery and talking to a lawyer referred by someone from Winner Assistance, the first thing I did was go back to the diner. Not to humiliate Steve, not to throw it in his face, but to say goodbye with dignity. I walked in during lunch shift. He was in the back, yelling at the cook about a wrong order. I knocked on the counter. "Steve, I came to let you know I'm not coming back. He turned, irritated. Emily, look, if this is about the other day, it's not about the other day. My voice was firm, calm. I just came to say goodbye. I left a $500 tip for Shanice, folded inside an envelope with a note. Keep believing in yourself. You're next. I paid off the debts, all of them. The back rent, the credit card, the car loan. I secured a real house for Jake, 3 bedrooms, a yard, near a good school. I helped my mom pay the medical bills she'd been dragging for years, and I set aside a portion to start something of my own. I didn't know what yet. Maybe a small business, maybe school, but it would be mine. The money wasn't just numbers, it was purpose. But the most unbelievable part wasn't the prize. It was who showed up at my door 3 days after everything went through the system. The bank rep, the one with the navy blue tie. But now he was in a gray suit, business card in hand, polite smile. Ms. Carter, I represent a financial management firm. We'd like to talk about your plans. Respect. Finally. Look, I'm not telling you you're going to win the lottery. That's not what this is about. It's about understanding that manifestation isn't dreaming and waiting. It's clearing the beliefs that trap you, sustaining an internal state even when everything seems impossible, and acting aligned with who you want to be. Scripting. Sensory visualization. Identity affirmations. Concrete gratitude. Bridge of events. One action per day that brings you closer to the version of you who already has what you want. I didn't just manifest money. I manifested a version of myself that doesn't beg for life, that doesn't accept crumbs, that knows deep in her chest that she deserves to breathe. If I managed to get out of that hole, it wasn't because I got lucky. It was because I stopped treating myself like someone who doesn't deserve. And you can do the same. Today. Right now. If this story gave you hope, subscribe, like, and share. And comment. Which technique are you going to test for 21 days?